out a wonderful product, the SHG 700, which is a spectroheliograph, and I don't know anybody here, but maybe some do. This allows you to image the cell in any wavelength, and it is a beautiful piece. So it's been around for a little while as a downloadable 3D file that you can print and try to make yourself, but Min has produced it as a consumer ready-to-go product, which has opened the doors to millions of more people, hopefully. So thank you for being here, Doctor, and we are very, very grateful. Take it away.
Yes, it's good to be here, and thank you for having me. Okay, we just start now, or just wait for more people to join?
1 o'clock. Jump in.
Okay. So we just start, right? Okay, so let me pull up my presentation. Okay. You can see the sharing screen, right?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Minh from MLastro, and as Stephen has introduced, I'm from Vietnam, and I am running a startup, which is MLastro. For currently, we are focused on making a spectroheliograph, commercialized spectroheliograph, and we have a product that is available commercially, the SHG 700, as you can see it here. So today, I'm honored to be here to do an introduction of my product to everyone. And let me get started by saying that I'm not an expert on a spectroheliograph. I made them, but some of the math is way over my head, and I'm just starting out just like everybody else. And I'm sure that a lot of people here are way more experienced than me. So yeah, if I made some mistake, just feel free to correct me, okay? So let's go. First is I'll give you a brief history of the spectroheliograph. The spectroheliograph is not a new device. It was invented in the late 1800s by George Ellery Hale and Henry Alexandre. In the early 2020, the Solex project revived the public interest in this device with the advancement in software and digital camera. As you can see before, the spectroheliograph is in the early days. They are a very bulky, very big device, and they use film for recording the image or visually observing visually. And with the Solex project, Mr. Christian Bill, Valerie Desnos, they made the software and the hardware to digitalize the spectroheliograph. You can capture an image just by a digital camera, so that it's much easier, and the form factor is smaller. You can put it on a telescope. Christian Bill, he made the design available 3D printed. You can 3D print the design yourself. And the Solex just revived the public interest in those devices with the contribution from a lot other like Doug and Andrew Smith on the software side, and Matt Gosidin on the software too. So I voted from the Solex original design. the MLastro started as a spin-off of the Solex project. I just want to make a device that based on the Solex design, but made from aluminum and for the durable, it's more durable. It's less it's more thermally stable. So the 3D printed design of Christian View is it is very good for what it is, but when on prolonged use under the sun, the 3D printed design has a lot of shortcoming. It's had a lot of flexure. It's degrade under the sun, and to be honest, the design is not that the how you do the focus, the calibration is not that good. So the starting point of the MLastro is just I'm trying to make a aluminum version of the Solex design. But after that, after a while, I realized that the original design has some shortcoming. So I decided to do an original design of my own based on the principle of the Solex. And there comes the SSG 700. And I have one on my hand here. So I will go into the introduction of this device after a while. Okay. So let me do a brief, introduction of how the SSG works. So you can see that the this is an animation by Jerome Asteri. I don't know how to spell the name. It's and it's for the Solex, but the principle of working is mechanism is the same. So you have the Solex here, the combination here is mounted on the the output end of a telescope. Okay, and you have the sun image focus onto the slit here, right? And you have this the light going past to the slit and hitting a collimator lens, turning the incoming light into a parallel beam, a collimated beam. The collimated beam hit a grating, a diffraction grating, and the grating disperses the light into a spectrum, and the dispersed light gets focused onto the camera lens, into the camera sensor by a collimator lens here, right? And because it uses a diffraction grating like this, you can change the wavelength by by rotating. You can see if you rotate the grating like this, the focus wavelength, the wavelength that got focused onto the sensor will change. Because of the change of the incoming beam, right? Incoming angle on the grating, right? So that essentially is how the Solex work. And by rotating the grating here, you can choose the part of the spectrum that get focused onto the sensor, and you can change the observing wavelength. All right, and you can see that we take the scan by slewing the mounts and let the sun image, drip across the slit. As you can see here, we will have a scanning video down on this side here, right? And we take a scanning video like this and put it into the software, and the software will automatically, integrate the image and give you a still image. Okay, so that is basically how the the SHG, the spectroheliograph works. The Solex and the SHG 700 is very similar in this regards. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the pros and cons of the SHG MLastro SHG 700. First is the pros. First, as I said earlier, since you can rotate, change the incoming angle on the the incoming angle on the grating, and you can change the observing wavelength, right? So the Solex and so the SHG 700, it has multiple wavelength capability. You can observe multiple wavelength with this device, with this just one device, right? So this image on the right here is a mosaic of a college of by Mitawa in Canada. He took multiple image from a single device, and he can go from calcium A from 866 nanometer wavelength down to all the way down to the 8 iota at 377 nanometer. So you pretty much cover most of the visual range, right? And a little bit more to the near IR and near UV. So with just one device, you have the capability to cover all the visual range of the sun, right? And the second the advantage of the SHG 700, as well as all other spectroheliograph design, is the ultra high contrast, which come from the very narrow bandpass of the image, right? So as everyone here already knew that the narrower the bandpass, the higher the contrast it will be, the image will be, right? So for echelon filter, we generally reach about maybe 0.5 angstrom to 0.7 angstrom for a single stack echelon, right? And we can go to as low as under 0.5 angstrom. But for spectroheliograph, although the estimation varies, but I think the general consensus here now is the full width at half maximum of this of the image from spectroheliograph is about 2 times the dispersion, and for the SHG 700 is about 0.087 angstrom dispersion, so about maybe under 0.2 angstrom in full width at a half maximum. So that is a very narrow bandpass, right? So as you can see on the right here, I have an animation from 7 days of sun rotation, and as you can see, the bandpass is very narrow, which resulted in extremely contrasted disc. All the detail is very contrasty. The prominence, all the prominent filaments show very well. Okay. The third advantage of the SHG 700 is the you do not have to deal with the unit to unit quality variation. So for entry level echelon filter, the unit to unit quality variation is a huge problem. You can see that a few affordable echelon filter, they have uniformity of the echelon is high, right, from unit to unit. So you can buy 2 echelons and have the view is completely different between the two, right? But on spectroheliograph, this problem is less prominent. You will hit about 90% of the performance 100% of the time. So the unit to unit variation is very small, and you will have very contrast this 90% of the time. if you're doing, if you are using it correctly, okay. And as you can see on the image on the right here, there are no, brightness variation inside the FOV. The view is very uniform, okay. And and one more advantage of the SHG 700 is the, the durability and thermal stable of the aluminum body. Okay, so the SHG here, I have it made from, a unibody design. So all the mainframe, the structure here is CNC from a single block of aluminum. So it is very rigid while keeping everything lightweight, and it is guarantee the lifetimeness of the setup. So you less have to worry about light leaks, right? And from the Solex design, it used a 3D printed housing, and as good as it is, the 3D printed housing has a lot of problem, especially when it works under sunlight. It degrades with time. It's, it has a lot of flexure. You can do the focus, and it just gradually get out of focus. So I used my setup in a remote observatory. So that is just, just driving me nuts. I just set the setup and I go back home, and the other day I open it up and it's already out of focus. And it has a lot of flexure. After a meridian flip, the image just jump all over the screen. Okay, so that is a big trouble with the 3D printed design. All of those problems, it doesn't happen on the aluminum build of the SHG 700. One of the advantage is the another advantage is the micrometer. So those micrometer ensure easy and, fast focus of the spectra and the calibration of the SHG. Okay, if anyone has used before, you will see that it has, a lot of nuisance to do calibration of the focus, but not anymore with the SHG 700. Okay. Even the grading die has a micrometer on it, so fine tuning the focus is easy. And yeah, that is the advantage. Oh, and no DIY required. So that's the Solex for the Solex project. You will have to buy the optical kit separately, and you have to 3D print the housing yourself, or you will have to, buy the pre-printed housing and then assemble themselves, do the calibration. And quite frankly, it is not that easy. Okay, a lot of people just buy the 3D printed kit and do the assembling themselves, and they just do not get the optimal image quality from the the DIY kit, and the SHG 700 take that out of the equation. We do all the assembling for you, so you pretty much just have to put it on a telescope and then image right away. Another, bright point of the SHG 700 is the, the customized optic. So for the Select, Christian Bill used a, a doublet design, and those design limit the, because of the aberration, optical aberration that inherently with the doublet. He has to keep the slit length at, at 4.5 millimeter, which limit the focal length of the telescope you can use if you want to have a full disc in one scan, right? So With SHG 700, I customized two of the lens that is due here, and it's it's the compound lens in double gloss design, 6 elements, and 75 millimeter f4 f3.4, and those lenses have very good optical quality. It has very flat field. It can go all the way to 10 millimeter. This can support slit length up to 10 millimeter, and it still ensure you have a sharp and detail this across the 10 millimeter. So for the 10 millimeter slit, you can use up to a 1000 millimeter telescope, a focal length telescope, right? But for the SHG 700, currently I'm using a 7 millimeter slit, which limit the telescope focal length to about 700 millimeter. But a 10 millimeter slit is in development and will be released in coming days. Okay. One of the major improvement of the SHG 700 in comparison with the Solex is it has a a more durable slit. So the Solex slit is a soda lime glass. It has a substrate from lime soda glass, and those kind of glass is actually it is for nighttime spectroscopy, and they adapt it to use on the Solex. But under the the focus sunlight onto because the sunlight of the telescope focus onto the slit, right, onto the surface of the slit here, right. So there's a lot of heat gradient on the slit, right? And the slit just will be cracked. It will crack if you put the full intensity of the sun focus sun image on it. So for the Solex, you have to use an ERF, something to to reject part of the energy out from the optical system. But for our design, we use the quartz substrate and thicker, coating. So the slit is more durable. You can, use it without any kind of energy rejection at the scope under 4" and smaller. And for scope on up to 6" you can use a small UV IR cut filter, and it will be enough for the slit. Okay, so less thing to worry about and less money to spend on ERF. The last advantage that I can bring up of my SHG 700 is that it is relatively inexpensive. So about a few days ago, I got a question on our Facebook page. I ran an ad, and someone just came in and asked, "Do you think that under $1,000 is is affordable to you?" And I replied to him, "Well, oh, to be honest, in solar standard, under a $100,000 is relatively inexpensive, right?" So this is a comparison image of the the SHG 700 and a Coronado double stack telescope, a 90 millimeter from Larry Alvarez. He did this image, this comparison image. So as you can see, the contrast is much higher on SHG 700, and the Coronado is a $7,000 telescope. So not to mention that the SHG 700 has a lot of has the multiple wavelength capability. So you get like a stacked up many wavelengths filter for just under $1,000. I think that is a pretty good deal. Okay, so now let's talk. That is all the advantage. Let's talk about the disadvantage. Okay, the first disadvantage is the SHG 700 is strictly an imaging device. So, okay, you cannot do visual observation with it. This is what you will get if you watch the SHG visually. You will see that it is a 8 alpha line absorption line, right? And this is what you will get if you look at the through the SHG visually. But I do not recommend doing that. Okay, so this is a visual device, an imaging device only. You do not put your eye on it. Okay, because you will not see anything anyway. Okay, so that is a big down for a lot of people, me including. I love doing visual. Okay, so one of the other disadvantage of the SSG in comparison with the ethanol filter is there is no lucky imaging, and there are a lot of moist stacking artifacts. Okay, so about the lucky imaging, I think all of us here is no stranger to the concept, right? You took a lot of sequencing image in a short exposure in a time by in a video, right? And we pick the good frame or discard the bad one and stack them together to increase the image and some kind of bad meter seeing, right? But for the way the SHG reconstruct an image from a scan, that is not happening. You cannot do lucky imaging with this device, so you are at the mercy of the the seeing. On the image here, I have two images. The one on the right here is a single scan from the SHG 700, right? You can see there are a lot of zigzagging, the jacket edge, the saw edge here, right? On the high contrast feature, those are the the artifact that come from seeing. So because the SHG reconstruct image by taking the slice slide by slide and then joining them together, these small movement between the slides, right? Because of seeing, it creates those those saw edge detail, and this is what limits the maximum focal length that you can use on the HG 700 or any kind of spectroheliograph for that matter, because without extremely good seeing, you will see those artifacts, and there's no way around that. There are some advancement in the processing technique that you take several images from the SHG and then stack them together. You can see on the right here is a 5 image stack from a single scan like this. I take 5, I stack them. As you can see, you gain some, the noise is lower, right? You gain some smoothness over the detail here, the high contrast here, but there are still some, some jagged edge here, right? So that is one of the biggest limitation of the SHG 700. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This works best as a full disc device. You can use it with a telescope of short focal length and do a full disc. It'll be very nice with the high contrast. But if you are looking for a long focal length, high magnification works, then ethanol filter probably won't be your best bet. Okay. So, okay, so that is the second disadvantage, right? The third disadvantage is, the the SHG is relatively hard to pick up due to the coordinated nature of the scanning motion. So as you can see here, on this SHG 700, there are two lenses, right? The camera lens and then the collimator lens. Going with it are these micrometer, right? So essentially, you have to focus just inside the SHG. You have to make sure they are spot on, okay? And then you have the focus of the telescope onto the slit, right? So you have free focus to get perfectly before the SHG 700 will operate at the highest, optical quality, okay? And then due to the coordinated nature of the scanning, because this act as a scanner, right? So you have to have a scan speed matching the frame rate of the camera. Any mismatch will cause artifact, will lower your image quality. And then you have to have the alignment of the slit to the moving path of the sun when the moon slew, right? So there are a lot of coordinated things that need coordination, and that makes the SHG 700 relatively hard to pick up for beginner, right? And the SHG 700 is generally, offer less spatial resolution in comparing with an Etalon system of the same aperture, right? So as you can see here on the right here, this is due to the fact that it rely a lot more on seeing, right? You are at the mercy of seeing more than an Etalon system, right? There are no lucky imaging. So a 4-inch telescope that using the SHG 700 will not simply not resolving as much detail as a 4-inch of say a lens or a coronadoscope of the same size, right? So you generally pick up less detail on an SHG, right? Again, no high-res application I've mentioned before because of the the moisecting artifact, the lack of lucky imaging. So the high-res application of SHG 700 is quite limited, right? And you can use longer scope. For example, you can use 1000, 1000, 1200 millimeter focal length telescope with this SHG 700, right? But it will crop the dish, but the resolution will be not as good. Personally, I wouldn't go past 1000 millimeter on on any SHG out there, and it's it, the only exception is that you have crazy good seeing, but I do not have that. So personally, I wouldn't go past 1000 millimeter in focal length with the SHG. Okay, so that was the advantage and the disadvantage. Now let's come to the the recommended equipment for the SHG 700. So as you might already knew, the SHG 700 will have to be paired with a telescope with a camera to work. It works essentially as a filter, a mid filter. So it will have to be paired with a telescope and then a camera and put everything on a mount to do the scan, right? So the first thing that I would like to mention is the telescope. So there are a lot of questions about what kind of telescope works with an SHG 700, right? So my answer always is you know like any other kind of solar imaging, the solar imaging, because of the the monochrome, the nature of the solar narrowband imaging is dealing with monochromatic light, right? So the chromatic aberration generally is not an issue. It's not a concern here, right? You can just refocus it. So doublets non-ED telescope works well, and personally, I prefer those cheap non-ED telescopes, since using a telescope with solar is kind of dangerous. I have burned the black foul lining on one of my expensive chiplet APOs, so I prefer to use a second-hand cheap doublet for that. Okay, and generally, I think any decent doublet would do. Okay, and for the SHG 700, due to the slit length, right, it is 7 mm. So the image from the telescope should be under 7 mm, right? So the recommended focal length is under 700 mm. Okay, the F ratio, this is tricky, since the most of the commercialized telescope will do well, as you might already know, right? Most commercialized telescope will do well in 8 alpha. They all, optimized for the visual range and 8 alpha. But toward the blue end of the spectrum, especially on the near UV region, like calcium K, calcium H 8, right? Calcium K, calcium 8. Most commercial telescope doesn't do well in the UV region, right? And the solution is to stop down the telescope to f15 or f10 for more sharpness toward the near UV region, right? And then I recommend that too. Okay, if you got a cheap a doublet, probably reducing the aperture using an aperture mask, a 3D printed aperture mask to f10 or f15 will make it work better for calcium K, right? So I talked earlier that cheaper scope is fine for solar, but that's apply for 8 alpha only. Okay, as you can see here, I got a Chinese cheap doublet here, right? And then I got a Bock 89ED telescope here, right? So the image from the two scope is displayed here, and one side is the Bob 89ED, a $2,000 telescope, and one is the Chinese made doublet, right? So as you can see here, there are very little different that we can tell, right? Both scope is about the same aperture, about the same focal length, right? So as you can see here, the sharpness difference in 8 alpha is marginal. It is very hard to tell if there's one at all. But the story is different in calcium K. As you can see, the image on the right here taken from the Bock telescope, and on the left is from the Chinese telescope, right? So you can see, I don't know if you can see it on your screen, right? But okay. Is everyone still following? I think I got some connection issue here. Hello?
Yeah, it's It's all okay.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
Good here.
Okay.
Still hear you.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Okay, so as you can see here, on the right, we have the Borg 89ED, right? You can see it had very good sharpness in calcium K, right? And on the left, the image is much less contrast, much less sharpness, right? So essentially, both of the image is taken with the scope wide open, right? So essentially, all the performance gain that you will get from getting a premium optics probably will go into the near UV end of this spectrum, right? And uh, for the 8 alpha, if you only care about 8 alpha, then just get any scope will do. I think that is the consensus here, right? But let's keep in mind that paying more is not, not an guarantee performance in calcium K, because more often than not, I see that my doublet is outperforming my more expensive chiplet APO at the end of the near UV spectrum, right? So you have to try the scope to see its performance, right? And one of the other thing that we have to consider of the telescope when we do the purchase or anything else is the focuser. So as you can see, the SHG 700, it weighs with the camera, it weighs about 1.2 kilogram, right? And it's sitting all the way down to the focal plane. So the focal plane of the telescope will be sitting here, right? Another image, you can see this focuser has to go all the way out to accommodate the SHG 700, right? So it sits way out like this. And if the focuser is of poor quality, then there will be a lot of focuser droop, and the focuser is not robust enough. There will be some shift, and if the small vibration, this small shift, right, it is very damaging to the image quality because the scanning nature of the SHG, right? If the scan have weekly side-to-side movement, you will see it on the final image. Okay, so consider to have a robust focuser on your telescope, right? Okay, so the next thing that we have to consider for a good quality image quality from the SHG 700 is the mounts, right? So as you can see here on the right here, we have the scanning videos on the upper end and the reconstruction image. You can see the software is putting the image slide by slide here, right? I'll run it again. So as you can see, if due to the scanning motion, if the for some reason the mounts or the telescope has side-to-side movement, maybe due to seeing, maybe due to vibration in the telescope, or vibration in the mechanical of the mounts, and due to resonance, some reason, then it will show on the image, right? So a solid and smooth slewing mount is very essential. Okay, I have been using the Trident mounts, and I mount the SHG 700 far from the center of rotation, piggyback on other telescope like this, and far from the center of rotation. and the result is, less than optimal. You can see there are a lot of jagged edge, a lot of the saw edge is much more prominent. And when I go back and change that and mount it on an AM5 by itself, then the image quality is much more improved. Okay. So having a solid and smooth slewing mount is very important for the operation of the SLG 700. And a lot of people are asking me that is this, this device can be used with an out-ass mount instead of an EQ equatorial, right? So I generally recommend an equatorial mount. Although the SLG 700 can be used, can be put on a stationary tripod, pointed at the sun, and let the sun drip across the slit. Let the sidereal motion do its job. But an EQ mount is highly recommended due to the easier operation. You just have to scan in one axis, right? And the slit alignment is kept on an EQ mount throughout the session, day to day, right? So I highly recommend an EQ mount, an equatorial mount. But azimuth mount will work, but you will have to take more of the manual adjustment for that to work, right? One more thing is that I think connecting the mount to the computer is for automation. As you can see, you have to slew the telescope back and forth, right? And slewing by pressing on the hand controller, and then you have to take the start and stop the capture manually is very cumbersome, and it gets old really fast. So connecting your mount to your computer and for automation through a script, I have written a script that do the automation. You just turn on this, align the slit, align the sun, and turn on the automation script, and it will automate the capture. It will automatically slew the mouse, stop the capture for you. It makes the capturing much easier and much less effort manually, and much more enjoyable. Okay, so connecting your mount to your computer, I think eventually will be very important. Okay. Okay. Bye, Sean. The last piece of the puzzle is the camera. Currently, for the 7mm slit, you will need a camera with, the long side, long edge of the camera cover the length of the slit, which is 7mm. So the length of the sensor should be more than 7mm. For that reason, there are a few cameras on the market that match this. And then the pixel size for the SHG 700, about 2 micron of pixel size is ideal. Okay, so combine those two, and you can see that the best camera for the job is the camera with the IMX678 sensor, or the IMX178 works too, right? There are several cameras that is very popular with the solar imager, like the the 174, right, or the 432, right? But those are although they have the sensor estate to accommodate the sleep, however, the pixel size is quite big, right? For the 174, if I recall correctly, it's about 5.76, right, or 67 micron. And the big pixel size, reduce the spectra and the spatial resolution that you can reach with your SHG 700, and that is not recommended. Okay, so just get a camera with the, the smallest pixel size you can get and the largest, sensor size that you can get. Okay, but all the equipment, recommendation here is just for reference. I think the best equipment is the equipment that you have with you right now, right? So just if you are into the SHG 700, I think you can just use what you have right now and see for yourself if you need the upgrade. Okay, that is my recommendation. Okay, so one more thing about the, the processing software, right? So I usually use StarCap for scan acquisition. You can use file capture, that works too, right? Then that is pretty standard. Okay. But about the reconstruction software, you have several, options for that. One is the INT, which come with the Solix project, right? And then the JSolix from Cedric Champo is exceptional piece of software. As you can see on the right here, is an image that I taken with the JSolix 2.9 version, right? And he even, it even annotate this active region for you. Now, how cool is that, right? You do not have to check the, live weather, speak weather live to see which, active region you are looking at. It is automatically annotated for you on the solar disk, and it even, discover some of the, unseen. You cannot see it here, but it detects the active region that not on the NOAA active region map, right? It is, very cool feature. And it's had a lot more feature that I find very useful. For stacking image from the SHG 700, I recommend the Auto Stacker 4, right? You can see the image quality improvement here. Very good, right? Okay, so what's next? That is the current state of the project. Now, what's next? Since the SHG 700 is still, an ongoing development, all right? So there are a lot of things that I plan for the future. First is, for spectroheliograph as general, the software improvement, right? So I'm aware of a few, ongoing development over the software side, right? People are working on better AI-assisted image reconstruction. So the jagged edge we see earlier is due to the side-to-side movement of the slices when you join the video, right? So as you can see that because of the linear movement nature of the movement, having a chain AI to look at those jagged edge and can tell, oh, this must be this way, this must be that way, and move the slices subpixely to to flatten out those jagged edge and achieve a closer performance to an etalon filter. That is I think personally that is a very interesting approach. Okay, and someone is working on that. JSolix, the reconstruction software that I mentioned earlier, it is also in fast-paced development. There are update push in pretty much every week now, and the improvement is very quick. Anyone, if you have used it for the recent version, you know, see the improvement and the feature is being added very quick. And I'm working with Cedric Champo to, you know, on those improvements. I also know that there are some team that doing work to, you know, employ some form of lucky imaging, maybe oversampling. You take several, you know, slides and then pick the best one. And then one of the major problem with the SSG is that the traditional quality estimator algorithm the software is not work very well on the SSG image. This software can tell between the good and the bad SSG images. Okay, so a better image quality estimator is on development, and I think that will do a lot of, you know, works on how to on improving the stacking process, the you know, the sorting, the stacking process, right? And personally, I'm working on, you know, better capture automation. So I released a script for SSG automation, but, you know, it's very crude. It is still early in the development process. It works, but it's pretty crude. I am going to make a GUI, automatic link detection, those kind of things. So it will do more of the work for you. Okay. About the hardware improvement of the SSG 700, this applies to the SSG 700 of MLastro, right? First thing is the longer slit for using with longer scope. So currently the SSG 700 is using a 7mm slit, right? So the maximum focal length that you can use is a you know, a scope with focal length less than 700mm, right? But I am working on a 10mm version. And that will be retrofitable to the SSG 700. Okay, you do not have to you know, or buy anything or do any modification. Just swap the slit and you are good to go. So it is a little bit early to tell, but I, for all the early adopter of the SSG 700, I will have you know, discount program, heavy discount, about 40 to 50% discount. So you do not have to pay a lot if you want to upgrade in comparison with you know, someone buying new. Also, a 12mm version is being planned. However, the 12mm version probably will require some, you know, optical upgrade. We'll have to change a lens. So if you want even longer focal length and resolution, probably you have to upgrade one of the lens. There are two lenses in the SSG 700, and probably you'll have to upgrade one. Okay, but I will try to keep the price to, you know, reasonable for the upgrade for early adopter. Okay, I'm also, you know, plan on adding even harder slit with better coating that support, you know, cleaning, because slit cleanliness is very important for the SSG image quality. So having the ability to clean both the upper and underside of the slit is very important, and I'm working on that to make sure that happen, right? And I'm also working on anti-reflection coating on the surface of the slit. Yeah, there are some interesting development on the slit side, okay? And I'm working to improve the slit you know, smoothness. Since I've said earlier, our slit use a thicker coating. So thicker coating is, you know, more opaque across the wavelength. However, it's it's due to the thickness. The edge is not as smooth as the thinner coating, right? So the edge smoothness causing uniformity problem with the SHG, and I'm asking the supplier to improve the manufacturing process to to better the edge smoothness of the SHG7 of the sleeve while still maintaining the thickness, so it will be easier to clean while still have good edge smoothness. Okay. Another thing that I am planning with the hardware is better optic with higher spatial resolution, maybe longer focal length of the collimator lens, right? So it has better spatial and spatial resolution, and it maybe I will release some spatial version for different purposes, like if you want to do UV observation or infrared observation, you will need specialized optic for those application. And the nice thing about the SHG 700 is that it is very flexible. All the lens will be made backward compatibility, so you can just swap the lens and you're good to go. Okay, you do not have to buy the housing again, just the optic. Any chain will be made backward compatible with an early adopter will have big discounts, so no one left behind. Okay. One of the other improvement that I am working on is as you can see here, right, there are a few waiting screw hole here, right. Those are the waiting screw hole for the motor mount. Okay, so I am working on a motorization, so you can operate the SHG 700 from a remote location, and you can change the wavelength. You can do refocus from a remote observatory, and that is my ultimate goal with the SHG 700. Okay, and all the unit the motorization kit will be offers as as aftermarket kits, right? And you can buy and put it on yourself. And all this wetting screw hole already there. You just have to do some minimal assembly, and it will compatible with all the existing unit. Okay. Okay, so yeah, so that is all the thing that we are planning for the future of SHG 700, right? So, let me see. Okay, so that'll be all. Thank you for listening, and yeah, I am very really appreciate everything, everyone. Okay, thank you.
Okay, awesome,
Thank you,
man. Thank
man.
you very much. Man, can you stop your screen sharing? There you go.
I did, yeah.
And yeah, okay, so we're a little bit over time here, but we're going to take as many questions as anybody wants to ask. And I will mention that the whole time Dr. Nguyen is giving his presentation, I've taken the most fantastic images through the SHG 700 that you could ever imagine. And it is an absolute pleasure to use, and it completely dwarfs my Lunt double stacked 100. In fact, you can have it if you come over here and get it. You can just have it, because I'm done with all that Etalon nonsense. This SHG 700, man, it blows away by a long shot any scope I've ever looked through from full disc. That's my opinion. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the crowd. Looks like Pedro, Dr. Ray has his hand up, and I will mute myself if you can believe that.
Yes, I'm going to be the first. Thank you, Win, for your excellent
Hi.
presentation.
Hi,
Hi.
Pedro.
I have two quick questions, and the first is the focus issues. I
Yes.
saw your last YouTube video, and you say there that you have to focus the camera and the slit with the SHE out of the scope for H alpha and for calcium. That's the first question. Do we have to do it all the time? Or because with the Solex it's different? And the other question is the nature of the slit. You say that there is no need for an ERF for scopes of less than 4 inches, but with the Solex we have to use it for if you don't have a ERF or some kind of filter, you will damage the slit. So these two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. I can see that you are, an avid user of the Solid, right?
Yes.
And you use it on a remote setting too, right?
No, not really. I have several remote observatories, but not for solar. I have to be there all the time.
I see. Yeah.
Not really.
Okay. So about your question, first about the focusing of the SHG 700, right? I recommending the calibration of the SHG 700, away from the sun. You can put it on the telescope and do that. You do not have to take it out of the telescope and do that. Okay. And what I was intended with the tutorial videos is how people check for the calibration when they get the HHG 700 units. Okay. And once you have done the calibration, the focus holds quite well over time. And I use it on a remote observatory myself. And through the session, the focus shift is minimal, and you can go weeks and months without touching the focuser, right?
Okay, thank you.
About the focus, it doesn't vary a lot from the Solex. The principle are the same, right? However, for the Solex, since the focus mechanism of the collimator is it's very hard to adjust on the fly. Okay, so that is the reason Kristen Bill recommend you do not touch the collimator focus. He leave it there for all the focus the wavelength. But in fact, you have to do a very the slight adjustment of the focus to achieve optimal optical sharpness with your with your lens, right?
But
So
you do it with the SAG out of the telescope, as you show it on your
yes,
YouTube video. Yes. Okay.
what I meant is you have to do it away from the sun so you can see
Right,
the
right.
edge of the slit, right? You can do it on the telescope, just point it away from the sun. So you see the two edges of the slit. That's what I meant. And
Okay.
I think I have a annotation on that video that said that you can do this on the telescope too. Okay.
I
About
did it
the other
initially
question.
away from the sun, and then I do it routinely while I'm taking images also if something happens.
Yeah.
And I don't use any
Okay.
ERF, Pedro.
Yeah. About the
But you have a different slit. So my slit is not as good as yours.
That's
yes,
why the SHG 700 is a bad product.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bad to the bone.
The about the slit, as I said earlier, the slit that is included in the in the Solarchat optical kit, right? You use that, right? The that slit is made for nighttime spectroscopy. It's used lime soda glass, and those kind of substrate is very sensitive to temperature change. It has a lot of expansion, thermal expansion coefficient, right? And when the temperature change, it expand a lot and it crack. Okay, so so the SHG 700, we have two improvement on the slit. First is the the substrate. We use the quartz substrate, and it had very low, expansion coefficient. So it is less likely to crack under the, under the heat, the temperature gradient between the different part of the slit, right? And then it has thicker and more durable coating. So that is more, resilient under the focus image of the sun. So yeah, I do not recommend. It do not require any ERF for under the 4-inch scope, under 4-inch. You can use that.
I
I could
Thank
just
you, Ken.
mention one or two things about slits because I've made some of my own.
And who is talking, please?
Yeah, this is Doug Smith here.
Thank you.
Hello, hi, Doug.
Hi, I'm
There's
in.
a lot of people on, so we can't tell who's talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I've talked to Min about slits a little bit, and yeah, the basic slit that comes from Shellyak is, as you said, not a particularly suitable slit for solar work. But I did notice that Shellyak now has a new slit, which is made on borosilicate glass and is also narrower, or I think it has actually two widths. I think it has a 10 micron and a 7 micron, and it's also longer.
Correct.
I think it's 6.
It's a double slit, yes.
It's a double slit, and I think one of them I think is 6 millimeters long, as I
Both of them
recall,
are-
and it's on
are 6
borosilicate
millimeter.
glass. And I've done some experiments comparing borosilicate glass to quartz, and the slits that I had made were on quartz. I think I was the first one to make quartz slits, and I found the problem with quartz is it's quite it's hard, but it's easy to chip. Right, it's so hard that it chips a bit on the edges, which can cause some problems. And borosilicate glass is not as good in thermal expansion properties, but it seems to be good enough because I did do some tests with some borosilicate slits I got from China, and they seem to also be able to be used without any kind of ERF. And I should mention that the ERF, which is recommended for the standard Solex, is not really an ERF. It's a neutral density filter. So it's actually cutting all wavelengths off equally, which isn't so great. A more reasonable approach is to use something like a little more narrow band, like UV-IR, which is, giving you most things. Or I know some people use just an H-alpha filter or some kind of, blue filter if they want to look at like short wavelengths. But anyway, I have not investigated the new Shellyak slit, and I don't even know if it's really backward compatible to the existing Solex design or not. I think it's a fairly new product, but that's another thing you can think about, Pedro. And I think also Min's slits, you could probably use Min's slits with a standard Solex, couldn't you?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So I have to buy one from you.
yeah, or
He'll give you one.
yeah. I should mention, I think Ken Harrison is not on this call, is he? I mean, he's in Australia, so it's probably too late at night. But I thought I'd share some images.
Well,
Maybe
Min's in Vietnam. It's like 3 a.m. for Min.
yeah, it's. I think it's even a little bit. It's the same time in Australia, but he's been working also with Min, right? Like Min.
Yes,
Ken Harrison been working with you.
With Ken, yes.
Yeah, and I'll stick some pictures from him in the chat here.
Oh, yeah.
So
Nice.
this is the body from Min, but what he did was he used his own optics, which is kind of an interesting idea. So it's a hybrid between a Solex and the MLastro product. So what he did was he took the 125 millimeter Shellyak lenses, and I guess it turns out that these, because they're 25 millimeter diameter f5 lenses, they fit into the body of the MLastro. Isn't that right, Min? Am I correct at that?
Yes.
Yeah. And then he also actually used a slit that I sold him. So he, for various reasons, I'll like stick in a picture of one of my slits. Just to show that with a body you can incorporate a bunch of different components if you really want to fiddle around. So this is one of the slits which I I provided to Ken. It's a chrome on quartz slit, and it's mounted in an aluminum mask, and then put into a 1.25 inch filter cell. And Ken Harrison told me that he could adapt the 1.25 inch filter cell to the MLastro. Is that right, Min? There's some sort of
Yes, it does the request to make the SHG 700 the SHG platform is compatible with your slit is very popular, so I made that. You can screw the 1.25 inch slit onto the slit mounts and make that compatible. Yes.
yeah. I mean,
Okay,
because
so we have a ton of people waiting with questions, by the way, just to let you know.
okay. Anyway,
No, keep going. I'm just saying we have at least 30 questions waiting.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Steve Iverson, you had your hand up?
I did. Mine wasn't a question, just an observation saying,
Okay.
observation saying, thank you very much. And the progress I've made in a couple of sessions is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree on that one. And who else? Go ahead and speak up because I can't see most of the people that are on the meeting because there's so many.
I know that Cedric is here with us, and hats off for your excellent software, the JSolX. It's really great. So thank you.
Yeah,
Oh,
Cedric, can you speak?
we
Okay,
have
you speak
Cedric
yeah,
here.
that is
Hello,
the most
Cedric.
fantastic software I've used ever. It is great.
Yeah, it's free.
That's the great part about it.
Hey,
You know, I'm using it right now, and
yeah, Cedric has said thanks. He doesn't have a mic. Okay.
the output of that software is just absolutely fantastic, and it's amazing to see it work. It's way more than you can describe on a meeting. All right, so a lot of people just gave up. So Douglas, go ahead.
Okay, so another observation, maybe if I can.
Yeah.
So Douglas mentioned that there is a neutral density for the Solex. I use that all the time, but I also use a filter in front of the Solex, H alpha or calcium filter, whenever I'm working on the blue end of the spectrum, and that helps. So it's I'm not sure if Min does that, but apart from the neutral density filter, I also use a H alpha filter when I'm imaging in
Yes.
H alpha, so it can help.
So
A
about
7
that,
nanometer one.
yeah, I have something to say about that. The Christian Build recommend the neutral density filter, a very specific brand, the Hoya Pro ND, right? And it's he used it on the front of the as a front ERF, right? And
Right.
personally, I don't know what your observation are, but mine personally is all kind of neutral density that is mounted on the front of the telescope degrade the image quality. That is my observation
I
so
agree.
far.
I use the Bother one, but I agree. It
Yes,
degrades.
even the one he recommends, it degrade image quality. It maybe isn't that noticeable if you are just using it with 30 millimeter telescope, a very small aperture, but it will be noticeable when you go up in the aperture. And the
Right.
reason is because those filters are not meant for for solar application. They are absorption filter, so they reject energy by absorbing the filters. They're black, right? And
Right.
they absorb the heat, okay? And all those filter are very thin, okay? All the ERF, even the absorption one from Daystar, for example, they're very thick, right? To keep the figure of the filter when there are some expansion or something. But for the for example, the 100 millimeter ERF from Daystar, it is about yay thick, about 12 millimeter thick. It's very thick. But for the ND filter from Hoya, it's 2 millimeter for all sides, right? If you can get a 87 millimeter, and it also about 2 millimeter thick. So it is not thick enough to hold its figure, and especially the mounting of those filter, they are rigidly mounted in the ring. Okay, so when it expands due to the heat, it will warp and deform the figure of the surface.
I agree, but we have to use these filters. If we don't, we will damage the slit. So
You
it's
can use
problems with the slit.
as you said earlier, you can use a sub aperture narrow band filter, right? I think it will much better. Or you can use, something like a solar wedge, like a Herschel wedge, right?
Right.
It gives much better image quality, in my opinion.
I haven't tried the solar wedge, but it's a good idea. Yes.
Yes.
I mean, on that topic, I would say I've noticed probably 90% of all SHG images are taken in H alpha, right? From what
Yes.
I've seen. In which case, you could use like a Botter 35 nanometer, sub aperture in a sense filter, like
Yeah.
a 2-inch filter, let's say, somewhere near the focuser, and you'll solve all your problems. You don't need any ND filter then.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So I'll try that. Yeah.
And one more thing, that using the narrow band filter in front of your slit, it cut down the vertical light band that going with the internal reflection, right? Anyone take a picture with the SHG will see that it has a vertical light band on going perpendicular to the scan motion, right? And using a narrow band filter, cut that down and eliminate those those light banding and improve you can better see the faint prominence. It doesn't get drowned out with the internal reflection, so that is a plus.
Very good.
Personally,
If
yeah.
there are some other questions, would you please use the hand raise feature so I can see you? And I will say that's not really the hand raise feature, but okay, Rick, I see your hand and it's raised. How about it?
All right. I just have one more quick comment on filters.
Right.
Hi, I've worked with Doug Smith a lot, and he recommended in front of one of his slits a UVIR filter just to protect it a little more, even though it was still a quartz-backed slit. However, the filter I use though is not just a UVIR filter, but an astronomic extended UVIR filter. It's called the L1, and it extends out a little bit more into the ultraviolet and a little bit more into the infrared. So I think that's a better filter where you want to keep swapping between like H alpha and calcium H or K or something. The second observation I had is my filter screwed onto the end of a extension tube that the collimating assembly is put into. And one valuable thing about that is it encloses the slit completely, so no dust or dirt ever can get on it. So once you have slit brand new and nice and clean and everything, seal that thing up with the filter and stuff like that, and no dirt or dust can ever get on it. That minimizes your transversalium lines, and I use a correction factor in the software of 1.0, which is pretty low, and the less correction the better, of course. And I still don't get any transversalium line defects even at a transversalium correction factor of 1.0. So that's worked for me, at least.
All right, very good. I will make the note that some of you may have saw during the presentation, but I personally slammed my head into this back of this SHG 700 at least a dozen times while getting up, and it is an extraordinarily durable piece of machinery, unlike my skull, which has been leaking blood many times from it. So yeah, this thing has revolutionized solar imaging for me, full disc, and I'm not a super nerd. I don't know anything really about all the engineering and mechanics that go into it, but I do know what a beautiful solar image looks like. And there's absolutely no doubt that these spectroheliographs from any of these guys are the way to go, in my opinion. I'm curious, who here owns a working spectroheliograph and is currently using one? Would you raise your hands in your okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people are using them. And
is this real hand raising this time? So this is okay, right?
Whatever you want, Rick. So that's great. Now we've got a few more minutes. My wife is already very angry with me because our presentation went over an hour and a half, but that's all right because it's a special day. So who else has a question or comment concerning the SHG 700 from MLastro.
Do you sell it all over the world, or?
That'd be great.
Yes,
Tell them about your new
I'm
North American vendor.
currently I'm currently shipping worldwide and taking order worldwide. So
Yeah.
I'm in the process of vetting a few, distributor worldwide. I already have a US distributor, and yeah, I'm vetting
And
a few.
it will help to have one in Europe as well. So if
I do. I am
Absolutely.
vetting
Yeah.
a few, Europe distributor. APM telescope has already, the
Oh,
express
sorry to hear that.
interest. Yes.
Okay, that's great. That's great because we will have
Don't
to
trust
deal
that
with
guy.
customs. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You better watch Marcus, man.
The nature of the SHG 700 with its, the many, the hard to pick up nature of it required, ground support. And I understand that. Currently, I'm trying to do the support myself for customer via, video chat or the email, but the ground support is going to be vital to its adoption, I think. Yes.
And this will be at NEAF because Ted at Astro Hutech is your North American vendor, and he'll be at
Yes.
NEAF in a couple months, and I'll be there with him,
I
and
see.
we'll be able to show anybody.
Binet had raised hand. Yeah.
Yes, Bill.
Yeah,
Hi.
thanks,
Yeah.
Min. Oh, sorry.
Bill Kemp.
Bill, could you please
Caldwell.
hold a bit? I think Binet said it first. Let's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Binet.
Okay, thanks, Min. This has been really hahelpful. But this is my first Zoom chat, so you'll have seen me as Vineyard. It's Vin from my short for my first name.
Okay.
So I did get the Solex, and I did find it really tricky to use. So
Yes.
and I'm really tempted by this. I'm curious about what you said that. I mean, I've seen the stuff about the mosaicing artifacts. I think somewhere in your presentation you said that the spatial resolution is also not as good as with an Etalon. Can you talk about that a little bit more? I'm just trying to understand. So is it really just the contrast that is dramatically better, but in the other things, the Etalons, a good Etalon will pull ahead?
Okay, so as I said earlier, since you do not have lucky imaging on your side now, right? And then since it can take time to complete a scan, right? So the seeing variation is not just at that moment, but it will continue through the scan, right? And so on one image you can have the seeing variation from here to here, but the other part is good, right? So you can see this on the image. Some of the image will have a part of it blurred, but other part is good, right? So yeah, I think personally, I think a 4-inch telescope for say, right, using the SHG 700 will not resolve as many detail as an Etalon of using the similar aperture and focal length. That is due to the the limitation of the seeing and the lack of lucky imaging technique. Okay, and so that is what I've always said to my customer. This works best as a footage scope, right? It worked very well at footage scope. However, if you are looking for a high resolution, something to crop in to zoom in to the detail, then probably this is not for you. Okay, this works best at full scope, or full scope. However, other application, as I mentioned earlier, we are working on some, and a lot of other people are working on some software solution, but it stops somewhere. You cannot meet the saying with just software solution. You can, make something resemblant of a good image with a single capture from an Etalon, but you will never get there 100%, I think. Yes.
Bill Caldwell, you had your hand up?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank
Bill?
you, Min.
Yeah.
I received
Hi,
my
Bill.
unit here this last week and
Yes.
waiting for some decent weather to get out with it. But
Okay.
by following your different YouTube videos, it seems like you cover all the bases very well. So hopefully even a non-technical person like myself will have this thing working fairly well. I'll be posting when I get it going. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, because you know the nature of the SHG is hard to pick up. So I've tried to do a lot of tutorial videos, show you how it's done, and a lot of people does it on their own on the first try. Steve that did it the first time he picked up the thing. So personally, I didn't think it is that hard to pick up. I always said that on my astronomy hardness scale, right? This is a 7, 1 to 10, right? This is a 7. So it is a little bit harder than, you know, maybe polar aligning your EQ mount visually, but it's definitely easier from, you know, collimating an RC telescope, that kind of thing. So it's not undoable. And I think it is as easy as spectroheliograph is gonna get. Okay, we took most of the hardness out for you, and all the adjustment is very smooth, very easy, and it's as easy as it gets when it comes to a spectroheliograph. I think I can say that with confidence. Yes.
All righty. So, Min, we ask all of our speakers, and thank you for your presentation. And thank you so much for your very personal tech support with me over the last few weeks. I know I'm not as smart as most of these guys, but I did figure it out, and I'm exceptionally pleased with my product. I love it.
Okay.
And Min has a little 2-year-old daughter, I think, or 1-year-old daughter in an apartment, and he's trying to make a living, man. So let's help him out. Who is your favorite Star Trek character, Min? And be careful how you answer.
Star Trekker?
Yes. Who's your favorite Trek character?
I'm sorry, I don't get that.
Star Trek, man. Star Trek. The show Star Trek. Who's your favorite?
Star Trek. Sorry, I'm not a Trekkie.
Oh my God. Oh no. No, that's the wrong answer. That's the wrong answer.
Okay. Okay, but I have to be honest, I'm not as Trekkie. I am.
That's a big mark and not in your favor, man. You're gonna have to change that. And I'm also curious, Douglas Smith, what is your favorite Star Trek character?
Oh, mine. Well, I'm Captain Kirk, of course.
We are gonna be friends.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Actually, I did have one suggestion for Min for a future as a design evolves. I would say I'd highly recommend incorporating a 30 millimeter grading rather than 25, because if you, as you start to play around with things like focal length of lenses and so on, you'll find that you'll have vignetting of the optics from the grading. And 30 millimeter doesn't cost too much more than 25 millimeter grading, but it allows you, because, you know, there's all sorts of compromises, but I would say since the grading is one of the more expensive pieces, if you have a 30 millimeter grading, you have a lot more flexibility in terms of how you change the collimator optics and so on. I personally use a 50 millimeter grading, but that's, first of all, much more expensive, and second of all, it increases the size of everything a lot. But 30 millimeter isn't that much more, I'd say, than 25.
That is a very good advice, and I experienced it myself right now, right? So when I go through the 10 millimeter slit, I'm already experiencing some vignetting with the scope, right? For the above 700 millimeter scope, I'm already experiencing some vignetting. So if the 10 millimeter scope releasing, it will require you to stop down the optic, the front lens to f10 or more, or else you will have significant vignetting. Okay, so, and yes, I think that upgrading to 30 millimeter grading is high on the priority list. And of course, it's will, to bring the price a little bit, but that I think that is not a so big an issue if you can use for say with a 12 millimeter 100 focal length telescope, right? It is an justifiable upgrade. Yes. Pedro.
Okay, Pedro
Yes.
Ray. I'm sorry for our
Yes,
last question. and comment.
quick last question. You said that your SGH is going to be available from 8 p.m. Markus Lutz in Germany, or I heard.
We are still in the in the conversation with them. They express their their interest, but I think we are working on it, but it's too early to tell. But I hope they will be our distributor in Europe. I think they are a reputable distributor, right? And I hope I can work with them. Yes.
And you
Try
make sure your wallet's
telescope
in your-
service as well. It's better.
Make sure
Yes,
your wallet's in your pants after you talk to Marcus. That's all I got to say.
right.
So,
It's difficult to talk to him. Yeah, I know him very well. Try
yeah,
telescope
he's
service.
I would try telescope
Telescope
service for sure.
service. Right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. So we're at 95 minutes and we're gonna have to cut this off, but you're welcome to contact Min, and he is more than happy to talk to you via Zoom. His English is
okay.
getting much better, and I appreciate that. And Alexander Hart, thank you so much for recording all this and doing this for us, and we very much look forward to it being posted on the Solarchat forum. So thank you, Min. A little round of applause, and
Thank you.
adios
Thank you,
from
everyone.
the 90
all.
degree Georgia marsh, where it was 6 inches of ice a week ago, and now it's 92 degrees outside.
Okay. You're still in
See you
your
later,
shirt.
everybody.
So,
Oh.
yeah. Okay. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care all.
You'll have to end it,
Okay.
Alexander.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.